Good morning, everybody. This is Yin Yang with Morsels of a Thought number 1223. I'm sitting facing a wall with some lights right next to me because my light is not working anymore. That light bulb is now flashing. So I wanted to start with um, chapter 1 in Wickedly Smart Women. This is Words and Wisdom Wednesday. So, Wickedly Smart Women. Um, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds by Angel B. Hartwell. Angel B. Hartwell wrote the first chapter. It's called Change Your Name, Change Your Life. I've done that. Angel B. Hartwell, FKA Emerald Peaceful Green Forward, FKA Amethyst Wildfire, frequently known as, is an internationally known speaker, spiritual leader, and transformation artist. An 8-time award-winning #1 internationally ranked podcast host and executive producer and founding visionary of Creative Age Consulting Group, she is hired by leading visionary entrepreneurs and global change agents who want to become massively magnetic to money so that they can fund their movements and fulfill their missions. Find out more about Angel at www.wickedlysmartwomen.com. Now, Angel B. Hartwell is the editor that compiled this anthology, and we are going to use a bookmark so that I can read this. Oh, it's not here. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, dare to be bold. Never mind, bold. Good morning, John Clark. How are you doing? I'm sorry I was late a little. I had a technical difficulty with the lights. Lighting, lights, camera action. Well, no action if you can't get a light going. Ha ha. Dare to be bold. Never mind bowls, dare to be you, the you that you really are, deep underneath all the labels that were put on you by family conditioning, by culture, by society, by educators, by religion. Because underneath all of that, there is someone who came here to be bold, beautiful, and brazen, and that is you. Okay, remember, we're also speaking to men here, but we're mostly saying, hey, let's center on the women. Let's focus and make sure that the women hear this. She says, I remember when I was the dutiful daughter of the alcoholic dad and the codependent borderline personality disordered mom. I was the one that got all the A's because, well, that's what good girls do, isn't it? I was at the top of my class when I graduated, 27 out of 123 students. Oh, and that was a year early. Yep, I skipped senior year altogether and went right on to college as a National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test Commended Scholar, NMSQT, NIMSQUAT, some people call it. I only got a semifinalist one, but I missed it by 1 point, and I know which problem I missed, and I knew it when they called time. I wore the clothes that I just chose the wrong letter. I wore the clothes that my mom bought for me, looked like a fashion model from the 1950s that didn't go over really well in the 70s and early 80s when I was growing up and getting ready to take on the world. I did a little college because that was what was expected of me. I had the grades, after all, and had been prepped for it for years. There was one small problem, though. 2 weeks before graduating high school, my dad lost his job. I don't know exactly why, but I'm quite sure that the drinking had a lot to do with it. And of course, my mom's story skewed in his favor and against the owners of the company. It was their fault. They didn't appreciate him and all his years of service, so we only had enough to pay for that first year at Penn State. After that, I was on my own. Penn State is a really renowned university, too, all over. But not really, because I carried with me all the stories, all the myths, all the labels, and all the expectations of what it meant to be a woman and what it meant to be a contributing member of what we term as society. I left college and went to work. There was no money for me for year two. Dad was busy drowning his sorrows while Mom was trying to put together and operate his business. Good morning, Tom Krebs. How are you doing? Time went by, and I ended up getting my own house and my own dysfunctional husband. Chose to marry him because the clock, quote unquote, as the world says, was ticking, and I knew I needed to hurry up and get married, even if I didn't share the same values as he did, because it was time I was supposed to have a baby. I did the role playing really well. I even had all his pants lined up by color, all his shirts ironed, hot food on the table every night, and not a peep out of me when he'd spend every spare minute of his time up at his parents' house gambling and playing cards till the wee hours of the morning. Maybe after the baby, things would work out better, or at least the way I was always led to believe they would. Not. Several years and a lot of drama and trauma later, I woke up. Oh my God, OMG. I'll never forget when I finally gave myself permission to want what I wanted, to find out what excited and interested me, and to actually act on some of those desires, even the ones that seemed more than a little bit kooky out there. My first daring act of boldness was to tell my husband I wanted a divorce. I declared my independence on September 9th, 2001. There was something in the air as we moved through that fateful fall, an awakening time for more than just me. I know it now, but in those moments, all I knew was that my own world was coming apart all around me. The rest of the country, well, I prayed for those people, but I really spent most of the time praying for myself. Good morning, Resource Kantara. I shut out the outside world pretty quickly. After all, it was truly crazy and didn't seem to be working real well in spite of all the rules and regs about how to be, act, do life. I went in. What I found there was nothing short of miraculous. I started a healing journey, a journey to discover the me under all the roles. I spent most of the year of my divorce just waiting, but after the waiting was over, I really started to break loose in a big way. Right after the marriage ended, I was into my office. At the time, I was a real estate developer and consultant at the tail end of building and selling out an award winning multi-million-dollar development of 51 single family houses, 56 apartments, and an office building. I had also just wrapped up the end of my term as the national chairperson for my trade association. I played that role really well too, talking to senators on Capitol Hill, being interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, all the biggies. I was at the top of that game, playing by all the rules, and on the outside was a winner, quote unquote. I walked into the office in December of '02, and daring act of boldness too, I told my business partner I was all done. He asked me what I was going to do, and dare I say it? Out of my mouth, quite literally, fell the words, I'm going to be a crystal healer. As you might expect, he looked at me like I had three heads. The funny thing about that is I'd never seen a crystal healing before. I had been reading about crystals in my spare time and had begun making jewelry highlighting the healing qualities of the stones. I'd even started taking some of the pieces out of my studio space, the little desk off one side of my bedroom. And 18 different local shops had my work available for sale. My next and probably most transformative, daring act of boldness was in discovering and then claiming, including legally, my first spiritually developed true name. True name. There's a story that goes with that. In January '03, I was on my massage therapist's table, Sandy. She was really great at massage therapy. I remember lying there on her table thinking to myself, this woman was made to do this. What was I made to do? Who am I? Well, that question all by itself opened the channel. In one of my very first experiences of audience, I received clearly in my ear the words, "You are a wildfire." I was contemplating the action of becoming a healer and feeling really confused about how I was going to put myself out there. I mean, what are the results of crystal healing, for God's sake? When I heard those words, though, I got it. I knew what it meant. My work is to be like a wildfire, a hot, blazing, wild, incredible force that transforms everything in its path. Did you know that there are some seeds that lie dormant in the forest floor for 100 years and can only be germinated by the intense heat of a wildfire? It took about another year and a half, almost a year and a half of studying metaphysics, including crystals, Reiki, Shambhala, multidimensional healing, and becoming initiated as a medicine carrier in the shamanic traditions of the Inca of the high Andes before I received my first name. It was a beautiful May morning, the morning after the very first teaching I offered in a local shop about crystals and crystal healing. I woke up that morning and sat down to my morning routine of yoga and meditation. This morning was a bit different, though. I was holding in my hand a piece of black tourmaline given to me the night before by the shop owner. I wasn't searching to be renamed, by the way. I was only doing my morning routine. I was opening to Spirit, with capital S, and allowing myself to receive whatever grace had to offer me that day. I sat in silence with the crystal, and suddenly there in my mind's eye appeared the Master Jeshua, Jesus to some. Beside him on the right was Master Germain of the violet flame, and on the left was Archangel Michael. As I sat there in rapturous wonder, Master Jeshua laid his hands on my head and said quite clearly to me, "You are amethyst." Yes, I thought to myself, exactly. In that moment, too, I knew I was a wildfire, Wildfyre. The A had come a year and a half before, and now both names came together. Amethyst, wildfire. Yes, this name came from the heavens to me. It was up to me to receive it and make it real, legally. A dozen years passed after Amethyst Wildfire arrived on the scene. During that time, an international reputation was built as a speaker, author, and healer, helping women to feel great, speaking and powerful, asking for money. Amethyst, I, made multiple millions from home, mostly in pajamas or yoga pants, while raising a son through adolescence, using the phone and a fierce faith to be heard by millions and to serve a global audience. She was part of the rising tide of women who rose up to be seen, heard, and hired in the first 2 decades of the new millennium. Spring of 2016, and another life-changing rite of passage occurred, once again involving addiction, domestic violence, and abuse issues. This time was with my son, who was named after my father. Daring act of boldness. It was time for me to die to the role of mother and for Amethyst Wildfire to die too. Master Jesus came and off she went with him in the early hours of uh, May 1st, after a harrowing night of being trapped in the basement, told I'd be cut up into little pieces and thrown in the river by the child I bore, who was high on benzos and fentanyl and had been on a 3-day bender that came to its ugly head that night. I managed to escape through the grace of trusting my intuition, and a brief moment in time when he went upstairs to pee, I heard loudly, "Go, now!" and managed to get out of the bulkhead upon which a large heavy garden pot had been placed to prevent my escape. I ran for the forest. Thankfully, I had my phone, and gasping for breath, leaning at the base of a giant pine, called his father, who immediately began yelling at me. Another awakening moment when I realized that who I'd called for help wasn't helping. Hung up, called the police, and "Officer Friend," you can't make this shit up, that's seriously what his last name was, came to pick me up and bring me to the station, where a report was filed as an arrest was being made. The next day, I heard a still small voice, this time bubbling up from the inside. It said, "You are Emerald now." Emerald Peaceful Green Forest. What? Okay. Within 3 days, I was at the courthouse, filed the papers, and changed my name again. Okay, so right now we are at about 15, close to 15 minutes, actually more like 12 minutes. Next, 4 years later, we'll talk about her next week. And where's my bookmark? We are going to go through, in fact, why don't I finish it right now? 4 years later, 2020. After a long and difficult road of attempting to recover my mental well-being, having my business and income drop precipitously close to bankruptcy, rebranding and launching my first and then my second podcast, I had another knowing that it was time to seek help to bring to closure any remaining open wounds from that night in the basement. I sought out a former therapist for support. One of the many things I mentioned during the intake was that my money situation had spiraled out of control in a downward direction, in addition to my health, mental and physical, since that night in the basement. She was one of my early teachers on the spiritual path, in addition to being my therapist for a while. 1 second. Esri, no. Oh, that's okay. Anyway, for a while, she also listened to her intuition, and one of the first things she asked was, "Did you get the numerology done on the name Emerald Peaceful Green Forest?" No, I did not. I left her office that day and followed her intuitive suggestion to find out what I could about my name. I discovered the Kabbalion philosophy, had my name analysis done, and wouldn't you know, Emerald Peaceful Green Forest was bad for everything for me. Health, no good. Relationships, no good. Money and business, no good. I immediately invested in the balanced name recommendation service and got back a list of 120 first names, 120 last names, and 120 middle names, starting with one of 3 letters. Angel A.B.Hartwell was selected by me. Within a week, my name was changed legally again, and within 10 days, I had my first $25,000 client in 4 years enrolled to work with me, and my business has continued to recover along with my health and relationships. I changed my name a 3rd time and have been on the upward spiral ever since. Sometimes change can feel daunting. And changing your name, especially when you've not once but twice built a business reputation and brand, is not just bold and daring, but some might even consider it slightly insane. I'm here now, though, on the other side of the drama, living and loving my wealthy life by design. This is trademarked, wealthy life by design. And a testament to trusting intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds, all capitalized. Start with capital letters, starting with my own. Blessedly, my son is now healthy and liberated from the addictions, and our relationship has reconciled too. Creating change is a process of engaging your conscious awareness. These are my 7 C's for creating conscious change. 1, clarity, know what you want. 2, courage, find the heart to go after it. 3, consult, invest in support from magical mentors, coaches, consultants to advise you. 4, create, take the leap and engage in inspired action, capital I, capital A. 5, check in, assess and adjust to align with what you really want. 6, choose, accept and allow yourself permission to reach your dreams. 7, celebrate, enjoy what manifests from your devotion to creating your wealthy life by design, trademarked. The start of my transformational journey 21 years ago was precipitated by the question, what do you want? It was asked by someone who'd known me since I was 6, and was the first time I'd ever been asked that directly. In fact, when she asked, it came as something of a shock that I could even have once of my own. People pleasing and conforming to community and cultural standards was so ingrained that just the question perturbed my psyche enough to get me moving on the path to where I am today. So I'll close by giving you that question to ponder too. What is it that you want? What is coming to you that you need only open to in order to receive? Who are you really? Dare to be bold. There is only one you ever. Be who you were meant to be. Create conscious change fearlessly. CCCF. Okay. That was Angel B. Hartwell. Change your name, change your life. That was amazing. Wickedly smart women, trusting intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds. And she is the editor of this whole anthology. So we will see you next week. Thank you for coming. And next week we will go into chapter 2, which is Faith Erases Anxious Reactions. Faith, period, erases, period, anxious, period, reactions. By Linda Sunshine West. Linda with a Y there. Okay, see you later. Old Kinderhook.